I think it's honestly shambolic. Is the country gonna go bust? Like, what's gonna actually happen? Basically, upkeep yourself and live and breathe and exist on the planet. That's gonna be expensive and we don't have the money for it. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we have a very different setup, a very different lighting setup. I'm feeling very professional. I recently bought myself a new ring light and I've also redecorated my at-home bedroom, so I'm super happy to be coming at you with my new little abode. I'm very happy with it. So today we're going to be talking about something a little more serious than usual, because usually, you know, it's a bit of fun. We got some comedy mixed in with the videos usually, which I'm sure there probably still will be, but I want to talk about something a little more serious. So as most of you guys know, I went to university in September, and most of my subscribers today actually came from the two videos that I did about university, and I felt it was necessary for me to speak to you guys about how it is being a student during the pandemic. I'm sure if you're a student yourself, you're going to understand the struggles, you're going to like really relate to this video, whether you're here to just relate to it or just educate yourself about how it is, or maybe you're looking to go next September and you want to have a little idea of what it's like. I mean, let's pray this stuff is over, but I don't think it's going to be. So if you're new here, make sure you don't forget to subscribe to me, hit the bell icon for future videos, and let's get into it. So the first thing I wanted to address is, as a student, and I'm sure a lot of you relate if you are students, there is a massive lack of motivation and focus being a student during the pandemic. Now, this could be down to a number of different things, which I'm also going to cover within my list of talking. But I think mainly for me, this boils down to being stuck in pretty much one location the whole time. And the UK is currently during a lockdown, so of course it's gonna take a toll on like your focus. And I don't know about you guys as well, but I tend to be stuck like in my bedroom, and then I'll have like a Zoom lecture, and then I'll have to do my notes in the room as well, and then like I do my filming in the same room, I do my photography in the same room, I literally do everything in this room. But it's then really tough to focus on the things you need to focus on, because there's a lot of other things going on in this room too. And this also plays into the fact that a lot of people struggle with sleep in their bedrooms. This is why people tend to get offices and places that they would do work separately to where they are in their bedroom, because it's super hard for your brain to just then shut off and just be like, I'm now going to bed, I'm in the same room I've just been working all day, but it's not work anymore. Your brain's too active and it just doesn't want to stop. So the second thing I've noticed is obviously the quality of teaching is never going to be how it would be if you were actually at uni, and I do not blame the lecturers for this at all, because I think obviously they must be trying their hardest. It's a really tough thing to then speak to like a camera for about 3 hours or 4 hours or however long with like no one interacting and like cameras off and stuff. It must be like so challenging, and I really do like send my thoughts out to lecturers right now. But the quality of teaching of course is declined for students, because we can only be taught so much, especially for practical subjects. Like, as you guys know, I study media. Like, you need to have access to the equipment, like the cameras and stuff. You need like access to some of the studios, and you need access to specific softwares, and maybe your computer doesn't really deal with those softwares as good as one from the uni might do. And there's just a lot of things that we can't really do when we're not on campus, especially for people like fashion students, drama students, music students, like all those equipment and those locations and settings you might need for your course. And we can't go on campus right now because it's a lockdown, and it's all remote teaching. Even for people who study things like English, or they do things like history, you might want to be in that sort of professional setting to really understand the key concepts you need to understand, and it's super difficult to be doing that from your bedroom. And like, there is nothing that will ever match up to that human to human social element of being at university, and I feel like that is definitely obviously gone because we can't interact with anyone. And this leads nicely into the next point that I was going to make, which is, if you had decided to go to halls and you have been in halls, then these consistent lockdowns basically either make you decide between you stay at halls with your flatmates if they are there, if they're not then you're alone, and you can't see your family, or you go home, you can't see the people that are at uni in your halls, but you're with your family, and that's cool. But it's frustrating having to move from one place, which is halls, to then home, especially if it's quite far away, and you have to bring like your stuff with you, and it's sometimes difficult, especially, as I say, for people who need equipment for their university course, like you need cameras, lighting, all of that stuff. It's really tough to then like lug that along to wherever you live, and then the government decide, oh, don't worry, go back to university, and then you go all the way back to halls, you get settled, you bring all your stuff, and it's just a massive nightmare having to move like 100 times on your own. And you can't always hire like a van or a car or something to take you, because that's going to be expensive and we don't have the money for it. So it's absolutely ridiculous. And even if you don't have equipment for your course, you still have to move things like clothes, makeup, or like books, things like that. It's just so heavy and so difficult. And especially in my experience, it's like getting on the train to come home, which is fine. It seems relatively simple. There's only like 3 changes, but it's tough because you have to like lug it all along, and I'm not very strong, so it's really difficult. And there's stairs like on the underground. Honestly, dragging a massive suitcase up the stairs like so many times a week is just, it's honestly horrendous, and I don't recommend it to anyone. I don't feel like the government particularly realises that that's something we have to do. Like, it's all self-led kind of moving and basically just going to and from somewhere on your own, and it's really, really, really tough, especially right now, especially with the restrictions. You have like a mask on and you're lugging a suitcase and you literally can't breathe. It's a nightmare. So the next one is a very, very big one. This is the financial side of stuff, because of course this is definitely one of the most frustrating things for students right now. If you're not from the UK, I'm just going to explain the finance system a little bit. It's split into 2 financial sides. One is the tuition fees, which is mostly £9,250 for every single uni course, which is ridiculous, and that's per year. And then there is another side of it, which is the maintenance loan, and this is basically based on your home household income, and that will determine how much you get. This can also be increased if you're in London, or if you're not in London, it will be slightly less, and it's also determined on whether you have like disabilities and stuff like that. So it's all kind of calculated for you when you apply. And these are 2 complete separate loans. So the tuition fees, as I say, they go straight to the university, and the maintenance loan goes straight to you, and it's paid in 3 instalments. So you get one at the beginning of the year, one in the middle, and then one towards the end. This is basically how you pay your rent for halls, how you have food, how you basically upkeep yourself and live and breathe and exist on the planet. Now, the rent for halls, if you have decided to stay in halls, and I'm just going to use this as an example because it is probably the most frustrating part of being a uni student. This rent that you pay is set out for some facilities that you get while you live there. So things like a bar maybe, or a common room, or things like just places where you would socialise with other students, and that would come under the rent that you pay. And the rent is absolutely ridiculous, especially in London, because my university is in London. My rent specifically is £211 per week, which is £844 a month, and that is insane because you could probably rent a house for that. And I'm okay paying that if I'm going to get all the facilities, but the problem is because of coronavirus, they've shut all of that, so it's so difficult for you to then pay that money and literally receive like half of what you would receive if it was a normal time. And they don't see that they need to make some sort of reduction for that. They own the building. It's not like they're paying the council for it and they need the money. They've already paid for that building, it's theirs, and they're still making our students pay the exact same amount as we would pay in a normal time, but during a pandemic where we can't use the facilities. I think it's honestly shambolic. It's absolutely ridiculous. And also, on the flip side, with the tuition fees that we never see, that's still £9,250, and I think that is such a ridiculous price to pay for Zoom calls or Teams calls. And if they have like internet connection problems, or you do, then basically you suffer, your education suffers because of this pandemic and the fact that you may not be able to afford Wi-Fi that's fab. The next point is networking. So a big part of going to university is obviously mixing with people in your field, mixing with like guest tutors and guest lecturers, and making your impact, learning how to sort of put your mark on them so they know who you are, and then maybe if you do something amazingly, they might remember your name, they might give you an opportunity. If you really shine out to them, they will notice you. And I feel personally, I don't know if this is how everyone else feels, but during a Zoom meeting, I don't feel like I can make my best impression to somebody in my field being just a little picture in a little square on a little FaceTime call with like 100 other students. I don't feel like I can then show them my true potential. They're probably not giving out opportunities right now anyway because of the pandemic, but it just feels like it's such a waste of time because that is part of what you pay for. So it feels a bit like we've been cheated, I'm not gonna lie. The next thing is, if you are in need of like help or something to do with your course, or you're going through a tough module, or there's an essay that you're struggling with, or a piece of Photoshop work that you can't do and you don't know how to utilize the tools in the correct way on the program or something, then tutors can't really help you with that. Like they can guide you through it a little bit and maybe give you some tips, but they can't really sit down with you and give you that full one-to-one time. And like, yeah, they can tell you how to change it or how to do things, but it's not really going to stick as well as it would do in person. So I have like a specific example of this in my course. We had a module which was to create an animation, and this was a really tough module for people in first year. I personally think it was probably one of the hardest ones we've done so far, and we had to use the program Adobe Animate and Illustrator to basically create a 30-second to 1 minute piece to describe who we are in an animation. And this was quite tough for literally all of us, and a couple of people needed more help than others, and I felt like it wasn't really given to them because you can't particularly help someone through Zoom. It's very tough, especially with a program like that, to explain to them how to use certain tools on it and like certain bits and menus. It's really tough. I think all of us could have done miles better if we were just in the classroom, but of course the tutors are trying and I feel so bad for them. The next one is another important one. Friends. I feel like making friends and stuff during a pandemic is literally one of the most doomed activities that you can ever try and take part in. Like, you see a person who's in a little square and you think they're really cool, they're really funny, they're really lovely, and then you can FaceTime, but like you don't know this person, you've never met them in person, so it's really awkward to then sit there and be like, hey, how are you? Like, it doesn't feel right, it just doesn't feel normal. I mean, at least to me. I don't know if you guys have been successful with that, but it's really tough. Because obviously in person it would be much easier to just say, hey, like, how are you doing? Let's hang out, let's go get lunch. But we can't do that right now, so it's really isolating more than you'd even imagine. And like, the idea of uni is to make those lasting friendships. They're real, like, amazing friends, and I don't feel like I've made any super lasting friendships because we haven't had the face-to-face contact and the bonding time. It's just honestly so frustrating, because for me that was one of the main reasons why I did want to go to university, to find people who are interested in the same things as me, and we can sort of talk about like random media stuff and get on really well. But it's just tough, it's really tough. The next one probably applies to second and third years a little bit more. There is a huge uncertainty, of course, about careers right now. Like, nobody has any clue whether we're going to have a job when we graduate, whether we're going to be literally unemployed forever, or is there even going to be a job market? Is the country going to go bust? Like, what's going to actually happen? And there's usually uncertainty about careers anyway in a normal atmosphere and climate, but at the moment it's worse than it ever usually is, because obviously there isn't really a job market right now. And even trying to get a part-time job alongside of university is literally impossible, because no companies are hiring, and if there are any companies hiring, literally like probably 9,000 people or so are probably going for it, because they've all just lost their jobs because maybe they've been sacked or their company's gone bust, or like there's so many different things that could go wrong in the job market right now. And what are we gonna prove that we are based on someone who has loads more experience and they're looking to give them as many hours as they like? And there's university students that maybe can do 12, 16 hours, and we haven't really got that much experience because we're doing a course as well. So it's honestly like we are doomed. And then it's also worrying that we have like a massive gap in our CVs, and people are going to say, like, how didn't you just get a job in that time? Like, there's loads of places, there's places like supermarkets and stuff, but that might not be the place that you would feel safest working right now, because it is the middle of a pandemic and loads of people go to the supermarkets all the time, and you might put yourself at risk then. So it's a really, really tough thing to maneuver. And honestly, I did a job search the other day and there was only one part-time job that would have worked for me, and I applied for it and I haven't heard back because they just don't reply, these companies. They literally refuse. So your guess is as good as mine whether I got it or not. And I'm sure there will be like leeway for gaps in the CVs. I just feel like it makes us, specifically as students, look like we're not even trying. It looks like we're just being lazy. And also the money side of things, like you might need money right now and you can't get it because there's no jobs. So I'd really recommend being a student right now, definitely. Now, the final point I'm going to talk about is anxiety about going back to normal life. Like, when these vaccines get rolled out, or maybe there's some other magic cure, like the fairy's going to come and whisk away coronavirus or something, then I'm terrified personally about going back to normal stuff, like being in a room with people and like not wearing masks and not distancing. Like, I feel like this is now really ingrained into my head, and I feel like every single other person's going to feel the same way, that it's now literally virtually impossible not to feel like you need to be spaced away from somebody or wear a mask like really tight to your face because you're terrified of getting anything. And like, I even think getting normal colds now like is going to be something we're all going to try and avoid, because it's just going to be terrifying. Like, we don't know if it's a new strain, we don't know like what's going on, maybe there's another pandemic. Like, it just is terrifying. And like the fact that one day we will probably be back in the normal climate is honestly terrifying. And like shaking hands and stuff literally gives me like, I've literally gone into a T-Rex because it's horrible. Yeah, so that is my personal experience and points that I wanted to make about being a student during the pandemic. If you have any other points or any sort of conversations you want to start in the comments about it, then please feel free, because I would love to chat to you guys about it and see how you're experiencing it. I hope this has been some sort of relatable video for you, or at least informative if you're not a student right now, or maybe you're just sitting here reminiscing about when you were a student and seeing how different it is to be one now. But whatever it was, whatever purpose it served you, I hope it was at least entertaining in some way and took your mind off of your own life for a little while, or maybe it made it worse. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. So if you did like it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to me to see more from me, and hit the bell icon to be notified whenever I upload in the future. Stay safe, have a wonderful, wonderful day, and also stay sane. And I'll see you next time. Bye.